But getting back to your question, just really focusing on what I took in was that a lot of the folks that made the journey, they had shifted their mindset from from worker, which is what our educational system programs us to be anyway, to entrepreneur, and just really being able to envision myself as the guy that can, have the lifestyle that I wanted, and really, putting myself in a position of belief that I've already got it before I
Mhm.
even had it, and
Mhm.
then doing the actions necessary to get there. That's the big key, and that's the thing I always try to help people with.
Hey, welcome listeners. Today, I have the distinct honor and privilege of having an incredible guest today on the show. He's a broker owner. His name is Rodney Fentress, of the broker owner of Rodney Fentress Real Estate. He also owns the Key Renter of Hampton Roads, a property management firm. So they kind of help out in all aspects of the real estate process. So Rodney, welcome to the show today, man.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to kind of dive right in here and have some fun, tell us a little how you got into real estate. I mean, have you been in this for 30 years or is this?
Uh, no, this is my 10th year. And like a lot of folks, I got into real estate needing money and needing a lot of it. And, I was in a situation where I was a career cop, and I was in the Norfolk Police Department. And I always wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be a Marine. I wanted to be a cop. And I got the pleasure of the privilege of doing both of those things. But I got to a point in my life where, I was in my 30s, and I had a lot of the typical cop issues. Had a divorce that was pretty bad. I had some financial stuff going on, and just started to really kind of study wealth, and look at ways to turn my life around and change my outcomes. I had some kids. I've got three sons, and I've got a stepdaughter now as well. And just started looking for ways to turn things around financially.
Mhm.
And at the core of everything that I read and took in was always real estate. And I had done some real estate investing in the past. And by real estate investing, what I mean was, at the time, I would buy a house and live in it for a couple of years, run up a bunch of debt, because I knew that I could sell my house a couple of years later and pay all that off. And I did that probably 6 or 7 times until I got to the point where I couldn't do it on the last house and realized that things had changed. So that change was another part of my, I guess, kind of development. It coincided with that bad divorce, and I just really needed to make some changes. And I saw real estate as a vehicle to be able to do that. I was fortunate. A gentleman that I worked with before had gotten out of the furniture business that we were in and had started in real estate at a small local brokerage. And I was able to link up with him, and he made the suggestion that I reach out and speak to his broker, and it was a good conversation. And yeah, that got me started in real estate. And that being a small local brokerage, I was able to really have up close and personal contact with some key players that really helped to get me moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, and probably quite usually, I learned a lot of what not to do from some of those folks as well. And sometimes those lessons are even more powerful than the what to do.
Right.
So it was a good start, and I spent probably a year or so at that small local brokerage, and again, met some key players, met some folks that helped me along the way, and kind of launched me in a good direction as it relates to being in the real estate business.
Wow, man, what a interesting background. I mean, first of all, thanks for your service in the Marine Corps and the police.
My pleasure.
My brother was in the Marine Corps for 20 years, so I
Okay.
understand that. And one of my neighbors with the Norfolk Police actually,
Okay.
and man, it's a tough job, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I've had friends, and it's just I tip my hat to you guys, and it seems like it's very thankless, but it's so necessary, and you help so much. But it's just wow. So
Well, times have changed, and I came on in '97, and it was still kind of cool to be a cop back then. And
mhm,
I retired in 2017. I started in real estate in 2013, so there was a period of 4 or 5 years where I was actively engaged in real estate and
right.
still on the department. And it was great because it put me in a position where my income was so much higher from real estate than it was from my police career, that
Yeah,
it gave me a lot of options. And
yeah.
it really helped with the transition. I left at 20 instead of the typical 25. So it just put me in a position to be able to reclaim some of my life and to make some of those changes that I alluded to earlier.
Oh, that's awesome. So, shifting gears a little bit, because you talked about how when you sort of recognize it was an opportunity, it's a time in your life that you want to start creating wealth and change the direction, and you did a lot of reading, a lot of soul searching, and reaching out, and it seemed like all roads kind of led back to real estate. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean, what was that sort of process for you that mentally?
Yeah, so and that's a big part of the game. I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So, every time, look, I've changed my life a lot over the last 10 years, and a lot of the folks that pay attention to me have seen that. And I get frequent requests from folks that used to work with me, for me, and around me, asking for help. And I think that what people typically mean when they ask that question is they're looking for strategic help. What do I do in order
Mm,
to have what I want? And I've always kind of rephrased that question and and tried to work on the mindset issue more so than the tactical issue, because we've got to get at the core of what your motivation is in order to be able to help you accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So what I mean by that, I would frequently get people saying, "Hey, what do I do to do this or to get that?" And they always phrase it as do, be, have. And I would
mm,
always reorder those words and say, no, no, it's about who you need to be in order so that you will do the things to allow you to have what you want. And
mm.
so to add more color to that, because typically I would get looks of confusion when I say that, but what I'm trying to say, and this is not an original thought either. There's so much science to this, and I'm sure you've heard of what I'm getting ready to say also. But people really need to focus on who they need to be. And once that appropriate level of focus on who to be is given, then the what to do just comes naturally. And so for me, that was the biggest challenge. So like, growing up as a young boy without a solid father figure, I had this hero complex. I was into all the movies, the Rambos and all that stuff. And I wanted to be the guy that was the hero. And I did. I was able to do that. And I was very fortunate to be able to do some pretty cool stuff. But, I realized what that was going to get me if I stayed on that path. I saw some of the people that were, a generation ahead of me and
Mm.
watching them retire after 30 years and then die 5 years later. And I didn't want that. So I had to really focus on who Rodney needed to be in order to have the life that I want. And so for me, it's just been a constant process of appropriate content consumption. And so what I mean by that is, just like culture exists, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Your mindset exists, and most people are not intentional about their mindset. And in order to make the change from the cop that was fearless and just wanted to do all the stuff necessary to bring every bad guy to justice, to a real estate investor that had the freedom of time. And I know we're going to probably get into what success means, and I'll just go ahead and give that plug right now. Success for me is freedom. Success means I get to wake up when I want, which is always 6 a.m. anyway, but when I want and do what I want. And so that's success for me. But getting back to your question, just really focusing on well, what I took in was that a lot of the folks that made the journey, they had shifted their mindset from from worker, which is what our educational system programs us to be anyway,
Mm.
to entrepreneur, and just really being able to envision myself as the guy that can have the lifestyle that I wanted, and really putting myself in a position of belief that I've already got it before I
Mhm,
even had it, and then
mhm.
doing the actions necessary to get there. That's the big key, and that's the thing I always try to help people with. And that's one of my biggest motivators now. When people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to do what you've done," or whatever, and I'm like, "No, that's not really the right statement." And I try to guide them towards, okay, well, where are you at? Why do you want to get somewhere different? And what are you willing to invest to get there? And so I think there's two primary motivators in life. And those two primary motivators are pain and gain. And so for me, I started this journey with pain. I mean, I had some financial stuff going on. You know, I wasn't bankrupt or anything like that, but I just wasn't where I wanted to be. I did not have the freedom, of course.
Mhm.
Um, I had some real pain that, you know, there was a fire under my butt that caused me to need to move. Now, I've accomplished, I've overachieved over the last 10 years as far as even what I thought I was going to do. And I had some big goals coming in, but I've done pretty well. So now, you know, it becomes a game. But I also have to do little mental tricks with myself every now and then to
Mm.
manufacture pain so that I can get back to that type of motivation and get moving forward. And that's, you know, on the journey, that's one of those challenges, you know, switching from pain to gain and going back and forth. So that's one of the big challenges for I think people at the entrepreneurial stage or stages that I've been at along my journey.
Man, Rodney, that's a whole lot to unpack, man.
I know. I know.
You can tell that but the thing I appreciate about that is that this is not scripted. It's not like
Oh
you
no.
wrote this out. This is like you've
No, no,
lived
no.
this.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot. You've lived it. You've been in the fight. But that's why I love entrepreneurs. I mean, you're able to step back. You literally step out of your own life situation, right, and say, man, where am I going? If I keep down this road, just, with blinders on, I'm going to end up here, which is that awareness is the beginning of so many things, right? Because
Yeah.
until you know where you are, how do you change, where you're going to go?
And what
And
you just said, I think, is one of the great tragedies in life that more people don't have that awareness or that sentinel moment until, and it's never too late. So I don't want to use the words too late, but you know, most people don't have that moment until a lot of water has passed under the bridge, and then it becomes even more challenging to make that journey. But it's always possible, regardless of what stage of life you're in.
did you have was there like a third party, somebody in your life to kind of step in and shake you, or is it was just sort of when it all kind of came crashing down at the end, you're like, oh my gosh, I hit rock bottom, there's only one way but to go up from here, what was it?
Yeah. So for me, there was not a person. It was a scenario, and it was that divorce, and
Yeah.
it was a very public one.
uh,
You know, it was on the police department. She worked on the police department also. There was
uh,
just a lot of stuff that rocked the boat for me,
yeah.
and but it was a kick in the butt, but it was great. And she and I are friends now. We are probably
uh,
the two best co-parents the world has ever known. I respect her tremendously. She respects me. But that situation lit a fire under me that nothing else probably could have.
mm,
And quite frankly, without that situation occurring, I would have stayed on that path that I was on to be that career cop. And you
mm.
know, I had these really ridiculous ideas of being like a mailman after I retired. I mean,
Oh my
I just
gosh.
yeah, it's just crazy stuff, man. I just well, crazy now, and not to knock mailmen.
No,
We
no.
need that, but that I would not have been happy with that. I would not have been able to have the lifestyle or the life that I have now had I stayed on that path. So that event put me on a different path. It changed my trajectory, and I appreciate it every day.
What definitely not to knock mailmen and people, and no matter what their
Sure.
job is, but that's so much lower than what you could have become, what
Yeah.
you have become, and where I'm sure you're going to go from here. I mean, and it's so funny. It's like we walk around through life, fearing failure, right? I
Oh
don't want to
God.
take this because something's going to happen. But what you're saying is the biggest failure that I, could have never imagined, probably going into it, right, was the seminal moment that turned your life to a trajectory that you didn't even imagine before, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that fear thing is huge for a lot of people. And I always, use all the common acronyms: forget everything and run, false evidence appearing real, all that stuff. But the greatest fear should be getting to the end. Whatever that is, getting to the end, looking back and saying, "Man, I wish I had tried X, or I wish I had done, whatever. I always wanted to experience whatever it is for you, and you'd never even attempted it." That's what, yeah, that keeps me up.
That should be the fear, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, the
Absolutely.
fear of not becoming what you could have become. This is the life you could have had you just taken that one step,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then, wow, that's amazing. So, all right, well, awesome. So you had a shift in mindset, a kick in the butt, motivation to move forward. You figured real estate was kind of the way because you've been studying all roads led to real estate, and you talk about being a real estate investor today. So talk about your experiences in real estate, both as an agent, an investor, that sort of thing, and you know just what's going on there. What do you see for yourself and opportunities for other people?
Yeah, so it's tremendous. And again, I wish I had figured this out earlier in life, but I'm glad I figured it out when I did. So, how I really got started with this, and it's a really funny story, but I had been in real estate less than a year, and I was still at that small local brokerage, as a matter of fact, when this event occurred. I was in the office and just happened to be there, and a lead came in, and I jumped on it. And it was an investor who lives in the western part of the state, Waynesboro, and he wanted to buy a 3 unit apartment building in Willoughby Spit, really nice area, right at the end. Great views from the top floor. His plan was to keep that unit as a vacation home for himself, the top unit, and rent out the bottom 2 units. And so, because he lives in Waynesboro, really successful guy, but met with him, had great rapport. I was definitely faking it till I made it at that point. But I think he saw something in me that he appreciated. And I'm glad he did. We ended up doing that deal, and at the time it was the biggest commission check I'd gotten, so it was a really great thing. And
Yeah.
then as we're doing the deal, he said, "Look, I want you to manage these two rentals that we're going to have, and we're going to keep the top floor empty for me to use." And at the time, I didn't know that I could even do property management at the brokerage I was at. I didn't really even know what was involved with property management, but I'm always the guy that says yes and then figures it out. So I said yes. And fortunately, I was able to kind of get started with that where I was at, and gain some experience with again the what not to do. I was just figuring it out. I was not really approaching it from a professional standpoint. Um, when I said yes to that investor, opportunities kind of kept presenting over the years. I just kept saying yes. Before I knew it, I had 10, 15, 20. I got to 29 properties under management when I realized, okay, this is getting painful because I'm just kind of, I'm not really doing this professionally. It
Yeah.
was providing about a good 5 or 6 grand of extra revenue each month. So it felt like it was a good thing. It was the right thing.
Hmm.
But what I learned is that I really was just giving away so many services and doing a lot of things myself rather than leveraging the talents of others. And I really just had to take a step back. This was another situation where I had to take a step back and say,
Hmm.
okay, this feels right, but something's telling me it's wrong. And I had to start, kind of figuring out what could be done that was better. And I learned that property management is something different than what I was doing. I was just kind of taking care of stuff as it popped up. There was no proactive,
Hmm.
actions being taken place, and it was just I was just doing it wrong. So I had to launch into a whole new, pattern of or approach to trying to figure that out. And again, fortunately, I was able to come up with some people, find some things. One of my favorite podcasts, Real Estate Rockstars podcast. I happened to be listening to that one day, and I heard the second episode of a gentleman named Aaron Marshall, who became a mentor of mine. Unfortunately, he passed from cancer year before last, but uh, ended up connecting with Aaron after and just learning a lot from him. And he was the CEO of Key Renter, which is a national franchise. And I made the decision very quickly to join Key Renter, and that just elevated my success. I mean,
Hmm.
tremendously. I went from 29 doors to 174 in like a year, and just learned all of the proactive things that I should have been doing. It helped me with my own well, it helped me with my own investing career because I was around other investors. I got some opportunities to buy some deals that I wouldn't have gotten opportunities to do without being in that environment. So it's just been great, and yeah, the opportunities that exist in real estate, especially for people that are in the real estate profession, and this is a thing that has always been like, ugh, people that are in our business that are close to the deals that have access to great loan officers, great agents, great contractors. not taking advantage of the opportunities there for you in real estate, it's just mind blowing. So it's been a phenomenal ride for me. And yeah, I know I referenced freedom earlier. It's given me another opportunity for freedom. And what I find is that my businesses are somewhat symbiotic in
Hmm.
that when the market's down, property management's up. When the market's up, property management takes a little bit of a dip sometimes. Although the COVID years both were just booming. Um,
Yeah.
but typically they're very symbiotic, and it just they play very well together. So this has been a great ride for me, and I just like being able to help people too, and I've been able to do that on both sides. So it's been great.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, having this symbiotic relationship between the businesses, it's a natural fit between the two. And here's the theme. Here's the common thing I keep hearing from you, Rodney, sort of in between everything is you talk about, most people are do, be, have, and then you're, hey, no, it's be, do, and then have. But so many people will pick up on the idea of okay, yes, I need to be something, and they want to be that person, but they don't. But then they also try to figure out how I'm going to get there, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're doing to use a okay, since you're a military guy, to use an analogy there, you're pretty much firing and then kind of
Oh
aiming
yeah.
and firing and then
Oh
and
yeah.
aim, instead of I'm going to
Yeah.
aim and then I
No.
never
No. No.
fire, right?
No, no. So you're taking words kind of right out of my head, and I use this analogy all the time because people always talk about ready, aim, fire, and I always say I'm not a ready, aim, fire guy. I'm a ready, fire, aim. So yeah, action is always superior to planning, in my opinion. Now that doesn't mean just jump out into something with no idea, but what I mean is you take action and then course correct as time goes. And that's the way to yeah, we've all heard of fail fast.
Yep.
Um, that's yeah, action is always superior to excessive planning. I'm actually in an investor group now with three friends and colleagues, and we have a meeting every Friday, every other Friday at noon. And our last meeting, I pretty much took over the meeting. I'm like, look, we've been talking too long. We haven't done what we've said we're going to do.
You're
And
right.
all three of those guys are smarter than I am, but
Yeah.
I'm like, the bull in the china shop. Like we gotta do something. So yeah, I'm all about ready, fire, aim. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, yeah, nobody's talking about doing just, stupid things just to, do something to do something. But at the same time, you can't steer a parked car, right? You don't learn
Absolutely.
if you're sitting around. You can pick up books all day long and you'll learn something, but you won't really learn from that book until you
Yeah.
you read it, then you go apply it, you read it again, you're like, whoa, I don't even remember that from what I
Yeah.
read. And then you continue to do that, and then magically doors will open, certain doors will close,
Yep.
but you feel your way to that being, right? Ultimately you're like, hey, this is where I'm going, and you got to grope your way along a little bit, but
Yeah.
not if you don't act, not if you don't fail, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. It's just huge. And again, so many people want a perfect plan before they take the first step. And I just don't think a perfect plan exists. And oftentimes, once you start taking that first, second, third step, you realize, hey, the step I thought was going to be five, that's actually step two or whatever. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta course correct as you go.
Yeah, yeah. Don't they say in the military, once the first shot is fired, pretty much the plans go out the window anyway, right? I don't know if
That
that's true, but I've
well,
heard that.
that's very similar to kind of my favorite quote from Mike Tyson. And the quote that he said famously years ago was that everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face one time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. But you've also said you've sort of immersed yourself in the real estate world. You've surrounded yourself with the real estate people, associates,
Yeah.
podcast mentors, things that helping you find your way along the way, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, early on, that was certainly the case. I've had to look a little harder for that over the last few years because I've got a larger footprint now, so I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people coming to me for things. But I still have some folks that help guide me, and oftentimes those folks are peers. They're peers with just different vision, and I've really taken a lot of I've gotten a lot of good input from peers of mine that have a different vision.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Tell me this. Now, after 10 years, and you've got a degree of success now and a degree of freedom. What has that allowed you to do in terms of like, because I get a sense you're kind of a guy that wants to give back and help and that sort of thing. How has that success allowed you to do that?
So, one of the things that happened over the years is a lot of my clients would often say, "Hey, one of these days I'm going to join you." And a lot of those clients were on the police department or just people I already known in various stages of my life, and I've been able to have some of those people join me. I mean, uh, the two agents I have now, both of them are former cops and former clients. One of them I'm married to, and the other
Oh,
one, uh, you know, I sold her a house years ago that her and her husband live in now. One of my other agents that has since moved on, his career took him in a different direction, but he was a prior client also, and it was a sergeant that I worked with. And I've seen some folks that I've helped along the way really change their life, and I like opening people's eyes to the fact that they can be more than they thought they could be.
mm,
And so I've been able to do that to a degree with some folks that I've worked with, worked around. But for me, the thing that probably makes the most significant impact is the impact I've been able to have on my kids.
mm.
Not having a solid father figure in my life growing up, I always knew that I was going to be present and probably in their eyes somewhat too present because I'm pretty active, but I've been able to be active and show them kind of the dichotomy of who I used to be and who I am now, and really be able to say with some credibility that anything's possible. We all tell our kids stuff like that. You can be anything you want to be, anything's possible, kind of cliche
Mm,
terms that are all very true, but I think it lends a little bit more significance to those cliche phrases when you could say, "Hey, look, I used to make 70 grand a year, and I had 3 months last year I made well over 100 grand in that month."
hmm. Right.
So, you talk about the shift in mindset that it takes to make that change. That's huge. And so when I say you can be anything you want to be, yeah, I can back that up.
You're
So
living it. Yeah, no, that's
yeah,
that's I mean that's awesome because you know what? By doing that for your kids, you're helping all of us because you're raising kids that are better, they're more confident, they're trusting in their own abilities and they're going to go out and do great things, right? And so thank you for that. And I
yes,
think
sir.
it's I think if more of us took that responsibility, I mean, because, someone famously said, I want to change the world. And someone else said, well, have you cleaned up your own bedroom?
Yeah.
I mean, right.
Yep.
So it's easy to look out there in this sort
Yep.
of, esoteric space and forget, wow, what can I control
Yeah.
and who looks at who do I influence every day?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, winding down because we're running out of time, Rab. This is awesome. What do you see in the market right now from an investment specific standpoint? What do you see going on there?
It's gotten tough in our area. It's gotten really tough in Hampton Roads. So savvy investors are starting to look outside of Hampton Roads. And
Mm,
and I went to a class in Richmond late last year that a competitor put on, and fortunately they welcomed me and another buddy of mine with open arms. But they're leveraging their network to seek out opportunities in other markets, and that some of what I learned during that 3-day period was really mind blowing for me. And they're also doing a kind of a syndication program where they are leveraging the buying power and partnering with existing clients,
hmm.
partnering with employees, and doing things that create client stickiness as well as employee retention stickiness. I mean, it was mind blowing. So, just the market's obviously correcting now based on what we've been through over the last few years, and depending upon what economists you listen to, we should be somewhere around 6% in a normal balanced economy.
Hmm.
And we all got a little carried away and a lot of a little bit. Our eyes were open significantly with the twos and threes and interest rates we've been seeing. So now it seems like a real shock. But this is probably where we should be. This is a normal market. So
Yeah.
I'm just seeing things stabilize. Another trend that I'm seeing is it's going to get harder for a lot of these newer agents that got into the business in the last 2, 3 years because we're having to get back to working. And
Yeah.
so, the days of just being an order taker are winding down, and it's time to get back to prospecting, to actually, having events and maintaining a CRM with a client base, and feeding that CRM, and all those things, all those tactical things that need to be done in order to have a real estate business. We're getting back into that. So people that have never been taught that, never had to do it, or have never experienced the need for it, they're probably going to have a tough time this next year or two.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Definitely the winds, they are changing, but I think it's for the benefit of all, actually.
Yeah.
I think we couldn't maintain that. I went through
No.
2007 and 2008, experienced that, and it wasn't good for anyone. So I
Yeah.
think everyone this time is kind of breathing maybe a little sigh of relief that, all right,
Yeah.
we're going to adjust pretty, it'll be a good thing.
Yeah.
Um, Rodney, man, we're out of time. It's been great. Tell everyone, tell, how can we get up with you? We need real estate. We want to do some investing. Maybe
Yeah.
I need to get my property under great management.
Yeah, I'm easy to find. I'm on all the social media stuff, and it's rodneyfentresshomes.com or keyrunnerhamptonroads.com. Probably the easiest way to find me is just find me on Facebook. That's where a lot of people seem to find me. It's just Rodney Fentress, or Rodney Fentress Realtor. But yeah, I'm all over the place. I'd love to help anyone that needs a conversation, or needs help with a transaction. I'm definitely there for you.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And we'll get all that stuff in the show notes. So it has
Okay.
links and all that for everyone. Rodney, it's been great, man. I am not surprised that you're doing so well. This is awesome. I love talking to people like you that have just really just hit bottom and then bounced up, and just, man, life is great for you.
Thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure being with you. If I could share one more thing with your listeners that I think would
Yeah,
be helpful.
absolutely.
So, we talked earlier about mindset, and things that impact that. So I'm going to hold up a book that was kind of a game changer for me.
Mm,
Now, I will say the author, Grant Cardone, can
Cardone.
be a little bit much for some people, but if you have not experienced the 10x rule, I would highly encourage, if you want to change your life, I would highly encourage you to get these words in your head.
Beautiful. Thank you for the plug. Yeah, Grant's an interesting guy, but highly
Yep.
successful, no doubt.
Very true. Very true.
Lot to learn from. Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, have a wonderful day. Well, let's do
You
this
too.
again. This is awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Take care.